So today we're gonna work on a bunch of outboard motors, and first on the list is this 115 E-Tech tiller. This motor is a beast. I bought this from a guy who was repowering, and I'm just gonna hook it up just to make sure everything's running properly. So it looks like we just have to hook up the shifter cables. Our fuel hose and our oil hose is cut, so we're gonna have to fix that, and we have to install our battery cables. It's not hard, so I'm gonna get that done right now. Everything is connected, and this is gonna be the first startup. We'll see what happens, and hopefully she starts up with no issues. Here we go. So I had the motor running here for about 10 minutes. She's running a lot smoother, runs great. Here, I'll start it up again for you guys. Give it a few revs. Next up, we have a Yamaha 15 horsepower two-stroke. And the first thing I saw, I noticed that the skeg is bent. Not sure how someone did that. The prop shaft is straight, but I'm gonna attempt to bend this back. So it looks pretty straight to me compared to what it was before. I say that's pretty good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my fuel tank hooked up to this engine. We're gonna start it, and we're gonna make sure it runs good and everything is working properly. So we have two problems going on. Our first one is our kill switch is no good. It should be shut off by now. And also the shift shaft that engages the lower unit into forward and neutral and reverse isn't adjusted properly. As you can see, it's already grabbing right there. I guess the first thing what I'll do is adjust the shift shaft. It's really easy. This one isn't too bad, but it could use a little bit of adjusting to make it perfect, so that's what I'm going to do. So this is really easy. So I have it completely disconnected, as you can see, and all you do is you set we're going to set the lower unit to the reverse gear, which is all the way down. You want to put the shifter that you shift the lever up top in order to put in gear all the way into the same gear as the lower unit, which for this case is reverse. And then all you do is tighten this nut all the way down onto the shift shaft, and that's it. So now we could test it. Neutral, forward, back to neutral, and reverse. All right, perfect. In order to remove this kill switch, it's very basic. This nut comes off up top. It looks like it's spin the whole thing, so I'm gonna have to get two hands. But anyway, this comes out. You have a cable that's running all the way here, this white wire, and then you just have a ground which is connected right here. And this basically just feeds in here, and this comes all out, and you just install your new kill switch the same way it came out. Got the new kill switch on, and we're just gonna test it out, make sure it turns off and on, and we'll move on to the next motor. So this motor has been sitting for a couple weeks. I don't believe there was any problems with this when I picked it up, but we're gonna give it a try. Pumping water, there we go. This one just needs to be cleaned up. It's really dirty. Got a great deal on this one. Electric start too. Right here is a Mercury 25 horsepower 4-stroke, and I was told that this motor does not have any spark and that there's a problem with the electric start. So we're going to start with the electric start first. I have the battery hooked up and I'm gonna try to turn it over. I'll show you guys what it sounds like. It just clicks. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna get my voltmeter. I'm gonna apply it, one of the probes right here, to the positive and to the ground, and I'm gonna see if I'm getting 12 volts to my starter. So we're gonna give it a shot. As you can see, we're not getting any voltage to the starter, which means that our problem is not our starter. There's something going on back there. So I'm gonna take this off and check our solenoid. A quick way to test your starter is to actually jump it directly with some jumper cables. So I have it hooked up to a 12 volt battery. I already have it grounded off, and you're just gonna touch the positive side down here on the bottom, and once you touch this, it should turn over, and if it doesn't, you got something wrong with your starter. So right here is the starting solenoid, and what I'm looking for is corrosion built up, and there is zero corrosion. A lot of times you'll have corrosion here and you won't get power to your starter, but that's not the case. But I'm gonna try to tap it. If we could get that solenoid going. Tapped it, kept tapping it, and it finally works. It fixed itself basically. And now we're gonna see if there's spark. Let's give it a shot. And there's nothing. Something quick and easy we could do is disconnect the kill switch, just to make sure that the kill switch isn't bad. So this wire right here connects to the kill switch. Basically, you just find your wire and disconnect it, and that disables the kill switch. So let's give it a shot. And it did not. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna swap the computers. I have the exact same engine, but in a short shaft. This one runs, actually it does run, but the head gasket is bad, and I'm getting water in the oil, but the computer's good. So I'm gonna swap the computer onto here, and if it sparks right now, that means this whole computer is no good. Yep. Look at that, it sparks. The computer's bad on this motor. It's doing something. All right, well, the throttle is sticking. Shouldn't have done that. So I got the motor running good. I just had the throttle that was sticking, I guess from sitting over time. We have a problem with it paying water. It's probably clogged up. There we go. So this motor is completely done. Check this out. Running great. Time to move on to the next one. I guess we'll look at this engine. It's been sitting here for a little bit of time. It's 8 horsepower 4-stroke Tohatsu, and I don't remember what the guy said. I bought a bunch of motors from him, and I just don't recall what he said about this engine, if it's a good running engine or what it needs, but I guess we'll just find out. All right, got everything hooked up. Let's see what this thing will do. Got the choke on. Oh yeah, I gotta take that carb off probably. Got the carb off, and outside looks pretty dirty, but it matters what's on the inside. So I'm gonna pop the bolt off and we're gonna see what it looks like in there. Yeah, it looks pretty clean. Got the carb all apart, and this is our problem right here. As you can see, you can't see through this, but give me 1 second. I'm gonna get my air compressor. And now you can see that little passage right there. It's very small, but that has to be clear. If that's not clear, your motor won't run right. Carburetor's on, and we're gonna give it another shot. So I'm having a problem with this engine peeing, and it's probably most likely the impeller because this motor has been sitting. It does pee a little bit if I squeeze the earmuffs together, but usually on my earmuffs it should be pinging no matter what. We're gonna be changing the impeller on this Tohatsu 8 horsepower. It's pretty simple to do water pump jobs on outboards. For this one, you gotta pop this pin out on the shift shaft. Comes out like that, and this will disconnect your shift shaft. And now you only have 4 10mm bolts that you need to unscrew, 2 on each side, and the lower unit will slide right off. Wow, look at that. We got some broken fins here. Got the new impeller installed, and check out the old one. It's pretty toasted. Here we go. The motor's running great, and impeller's working good. Shifting to gear. Oh yeah, everything's working. She runs amazing. So now I'm just gonna move on to another motor. Right here is a Mercury 8 horsepower 4-stroke, and I'm pretty sure this is a running motor, but we're gonna give it a shot just to make sure everything is running properly, and we'll move on to the next one. Start at second pull. So this motor's been running for a couple minutes. I noticed the motor does have a hesitation issue, and I'll show you guys really quick. See that? And I'll show you guys the problem and why it's doing that. So on newer motors, they put this brass cap over the air mixture screw so you don't mess with that. This screw in here will get out of adjustment, and it's gonna seem like your carburetor is clogged up, even though it's this screw right here that's not properly adjusted. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill this cap out, remove it, and we're gonna adjust that screw in there. And here's that cap. That's what it looks like. You just want to drill far enough in order to get the drill bit through the cap, but not completely through the carburetor. So just be careful when you drill this out. And now we are exposed to that screw. So basically you start from scratch. You're gonna screw the screw all the way in until it stops. And then you're just gonna rotate the screw outwards, going counterclockwise until you reach your adjustment specifications for your engine. So I got the motor running. We're gonna see if it fixed our issue. Look at that. Works like a charm now. We're gonna move on to our next engine. So now we have a Mercury 15 horsepower, and if I remember correctly, I think he said something that it idles perfectly, but when you try to give it gas, it will stall, if I remember. And it just sounds like a carburetor issue, but let's start it up and we'll see what it actually does. So the motor's been running here for about 5 minutes, and it seems to run really strong. Here, I'll show you guys. The only thing I could say is wrong with it is right here. This is cracked, this plastic piece, but that's replaceable. But other than that, I really don't see anything wrong, so we're just gonna move on to another one. All right, so let's see what else we got. Looks like Evinrude, Tohatsu on the ground, another Evinrude and a Yamaha. I know this motor right here is missing the carb on it, and I don't have that, so I can't really do anything with that. I might look at this Tohatsu. So I got the motor on the stand, super clean, but the carburetor is missing off of this motor. These are the both exact same engines, and they are missing the carburetor, so I guess I have to go online or try to find some used carburetors, but we can't work on this now. So this is the engine that I told you guys I didn't have the carbs for, but apparently I was looking through my garage and I stumbled upon 2 carbs. I guess I did have them, so I'm just gonna get one of these carbs together and we're gonna throw it on this motor and we'll see if she'll run. Before I put the carb back on, I'm gonna get these clamps fixed because they are pretty much frozen. What I do is I get a torch, heat it up a little bit, get some penetrating oil on the threads, and you just gotta give it some elbow grease and they'll be really smooth. Look how smooth this is now. I mean, It's a big difference. Carb is on, and all I have to do now is add oil because there was no oil when I checked. The only thing now I gotta do to this engine is glue the hood seal. It's very common for these hood seals to just come off. I just finished up on this engine and she's ready to go. Just needs to be cleaned up. And let's find another engine we can work on. Motor runs good, no issues. Check this out. Start try to. So now we have a Evinrude 15 2-stroke. I'm not sure if this runs. I bought it from the same guy with the Evinrude 8 2-stroke that I just started up. Let's see if it runs. So it looks like that this motor is going to need a new impeller. So I called around and I can't find a impeller kit for this engine. So I'm just gonna have to leave it for next time, which sucks, but I'm just gonna move on to the next engine. Right here, this is a Yamaha 9.9 2-stroke, and this thing has been sitting for years in the guy's shed. And I have had it sitting on the ground for a good amount of time. So we're gonna see if we can get this thing to fire up. So I have my fuel hooked up and I noticed that there is fuel leaking at the top of the carburetor. See that? That means that the float is sticking, so we have to take that carburetor off. And now we're just gonna pop the bowl open. We'll take a look at what that looks like. This stuff right here will clog up your jets immediately. Look at this, nasty stuff. All right, got the carb all cleaned up. We're just gonna install it and hopefully it'll start up. So I tried to pull on the cord and the cord snapped. Kind of knew that this was gonna happen because the cord was already frayed. But the motor actually ran. It might need a new impeller probably, but it definitely needs a new pull cord to be installed. But we're just gonna move on to this Suzuki. I think this is a 20, and this is gonna be the last motor I'm gonna be working on. All right, so I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll see what it does or if it does anything. So I'm gonna pull the plugs out because I believe this motor was laid on the wrong side and we have oil in the cylinders, which is causing it to not turn over. So let me pull those plugs, and if there's any oil, we gotta get that out. I just pulled the bottom plug and it's pouring out of there. We have oil, so I gotta pull it over and try to clear that out. So I checked the oil level, we're good. I had to add a little bit of oil, so we're gonna try to turn her over and see if it starts. So I got the motor running. The impeller is weak in it. Should be pumping a little bit more water than this. But what do you expect? It's been sitting for so long. But this is gonna be the last motor that I'm working on. So all these engines were in my video. Now some of these engines didn't need no work, while others needed a little bit more work than others to get going, but they're pretty much all are good running engines. Let me know what's your favorite brand in this video. And if you guys can, give me a thumbs up on this video. Please stay tuned for more content. Thanks for watching.